Marketing communication needs based on rural audiences exposure level obviously means that you need to be with a touch and feel of the change, what kind of changes are taking place. There are two kinds of changes that takes place primarily in marketing communication terms. One is their participation with the market and market changes, and second is obviously to do with changes in media and their relationship, new relationship that they are building in terms of media changes. And to be able to do that for any marketer, it is necessary to keep track of all the three, that is what is going on in the changing scenario of the consumer behavior and what changes are taking place in the media. Just to give you a small example, their new relationship with digital media, if there is in any rural segment that is there, will it change their relationship with say television medium? That kind of questions can be answered only by going to the field and finding out the new relationships that they are developing. So, if you want to understand and participate with this changing consumer behavior, you need to understand the relationship that is changing with media and the market. First of all, brand choices and brand building are absolutely very far away from current scenario. But I would go back to when my creative director was asked by me to list down the kind of media channels through which we can reach out to those rural people, because in the urban scenario you have 5 choices, television, media, television, cinema, radio, outdoor and press. So, he wrote down about 1500 channels of communication through which one can reach out to. Therefore, it is absolutely certain and absolutely a given that without innovation you are a dead duck. You cannot approach exploring rural market without really carrying out any kind of innovation. Every plan, every product, every brand, every effort has to be first time. Media is only possible where tracking of media takes place. That means structured, organized media input are tracked over time to ensure, to understand what is the kind of advertising recall and what is the kind of media impact. That situation in Indian rural context does not exist. So, therefore, how do you measure media impact or media effort? I will give you an example of pulse polio. The effort started sometime in 1991 through mass media and certain local activities, but by 2012 or 2009, 10, 11, 12, the effort was a very high pitched exposure through mass media such as television and very high pitched exposure through wall signs, to primarily through wall signs and other activities. And today we practically we have achieved polio free kind of India. So, to say whether media effort through or media effort for polio has worked or not, oh tree, what is your name? My name is in my fruit. So, yes, to that extent certain combination of media has obviously worked to make India polio free. No, not yet in the rural sector, because unless you have structured media input, you cannot measure it in a structured manner. So, you have to measure media input through innovative measurement rather than like take for example, testing out whether the communication or messaging that you have done is becoming relevant. I will give you a small example. We were in 1991, we were creating a communication on Tikakaran. So, we created a film on Tikakaran. In fact, Sham Benagal created this film for us, and we took that film in a video van to Sikar, which is a small place in Shekhawat. So, we then carried out this exposure for about a month or two, if I remember right, and then went and found the message had two messages. One is the importance of Teekakaran and the importance of the schedule, understanding the schedule of Teekakaran. So, when we went there, we found that only the word Teekakaran has been remembered by the people who have been exposed to these two films, but the schedule had absolutely no impact. Then when we went out and explored why such a thing had happened, was that because the film was in Hindi, and we had believed that Hindi is the language that Shekhawati or Rajasthan understands. When we realized that it is not so, Shekhawati is the language that these people understand, we converted the film into Shekhawati language, and again then went and found that it works. That is the process on which currently even the situation exists. You do not have a structured measurement process. Can be applied or not in the
how does that work
in the rural areas. It is a very simple thing. In what is the difference between urban communication and rural communication? Urban communication is primarily aimed at brand switch. Rural communication is aimed at behavior change. Brand switch can be tracked on a monthly basis, on a weekly basis. Behavior change cannot be tracked on a monthly basis, on a weekly basis. Behavior change goes through a process, and that process needs to be tracked. Process is understanding, getting knowledge, making that knowledge, creating a perception in the mind, that perception creating an attitude in the mind, and that attitude creating a behavioral change aspect in the mind. Now, obviously, as yet probably nobody has come to, even today, the urban concept of effective frequency being 3 exposures plus 3 plus exposure was started, the research started sometime in the year of 60s, and then came to be applied after about 30 years or 40 years of its application research. So, therefore, even today in rural there is it's far more complicated, because it is dealing with behavior change, and therefore, you do not have that answer. The only way you can understand is continuously be involved with the progress of this behavior change in the mind of the people by measuring different kind of things, and obviously by sales, obviously by kind of impact it is having on sales, which is obviously not the only communication may not be the only factor. Access and availability, attitude and awareness, everything is important, but that is the only way we can do understanding whether the behavior is changing or not. Just measure the relationship. Do not call it a media audit, market audit, message audit. The effect of any effort such as media effort or message effort or market efforts must lead to building certain relationship. Audit the relationship changes that is happening, if at all it is happening. In the bargain, you will also be going and finding out the sources of that relationship, whether market changes or marketing input has made the change, or whether the media awareness that has been generated that has made the change, shift. So, therefore, you do not have to directly measure the media per se, measure the relationship which is the outcome of any effort, measure that to be able to understand whether your media input is good enough, strong enough, effective enough. So, call it audit relationship audit rather than media audit or anything of the sort. Why did we create this rural campus? What is our expectations, or what purpose it is going to be serving, and that is far more important. India, if Indian economy, Indian corporate world, Indian marketers, if they have to progress, if they have to grow, the contact with the rural India, and as some people call Bharat, is absolutely critical. Unfortunately, this is my 40, 45, 50 years of living in this industry, I am sharing this. Unfortunately, there is very little knowledge about rural India, Bharat. And what does a rural campus therefore do? They bridge that gap. The gap deals with a touch and feel. The gap deals with bringing closer the understanding, sensitizing of people who are going to be participating with rural India, to them that sensitization or sensitivity. So, therefore, rural campus primarily, as the name suggests, is a campus where you interact with rural people, you get a touch and feel of the rural people, and it must be a kind of a integral part of your growth in terms of creating an opportunity for participation in rural India. So, basically rural campus is an integral part of the corporate world or student world or any other person, NGOs and others who wants to work in the rural areas, to be able to really participate in a meaningful manner, in a gainful manner and in a successful manner.